Bruins Beat is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat, presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5. And we're presented by Game Time. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That is Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. Connor, what is up?
Evan, doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing better. Doing much better than Saturday and last week. I feel cleansed,
alive,
healthy. Yes, I got to bed early. That's a big thing. Like, you know, in college, I didn't realize this. When you go to bed early and you get a good night's sleep, my mom was right all those years. Yeah, it actually does help you out. So I was smart the last couple days. Happy. One negative, though, I missed the Bruins 100-year celebration, the Centennial Game. I missed it. I didn't want to be patient zero. How was it? How were the festivities? How was before? How was during? What'd you think of it?
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a culmination of, over a year's worth of celebration. Shout out to the Bruins digital team, the game day staff, everyone for putting in a whole lot of late hours, not just, this week leading up to it, but for over a year now, getting all this stuff in order. And all of it was great. Yeah, like you had like the digital side, you had the videos, that drone shot that had all the legends in it. That was great. The ceremony, hit all the notes right in terms of having former Bruins legends there, kind of reflecting on the past, looking to the future. Always good to see guys in the building, like, obviously Johnny Busick's around quite a bit. But him, Bergeron, you had Wayne Cashman, Phil Esposito, which is always great when he's there. Obviously Bobby Orr, Ray Borg, all the guys.
Willie O'Ree made it out.
Willie O'Ree
89.
Well.
Looks
89
great for 89.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Same as Johnny Busick, both 89 years old. And so, yeah, I think, paying tribute to the past while also looking to the future, even if maybe this season has not gone according to plan for the Bruins, I think, so far. But I think it hit all of the right notes that you want. A culmination of what this past year plus of celebration has been. The Bruins have always been a team rooted in history, very reflective and appreciative of what came before them. And I think it was a good way to ring in kind of this next generation and move forward. But they hit on all the right notes. And even you have the new bear statue on Causeway Street. You had that, which, like, I honestly shout out to the Bruins for picking like an animal to have it be the thing instead of like another person. Because let me tell you, a very easy way to get roasted these days on social media is having a statue of a person and it looks slightly off or completely wrong. Like you had Dwayne Wade looking like Lawrence Fishburne a few weeks ago with the Miami Heat. So you don't want one of those situations where it's like they unveil it, the curtain comes down, and they're like, who the fuck is that? Oh. You don't want one of those. So it's tough to mess up a bit. I saw a few people were like, his head's too small. I don't know.
Did people say that? I didn't see that. That's
like
amazing.
The head's not big enough. I'm like,
claws aren't vicious enough.
I have not been that close to a brown bear to properly assess the size of its head. It wasn't like the little thing from like Beetlejuice or something like that, where it's like a teeny tiny head or anything like that. So it wasn't egregious. So I'm not going to nitpick anything else that came from it. But whether it's the statue, the ceremony, all that stuff, I think the Bruins did a really, really good job looking back on what this past year plus was.
Yeah, and if you picked one person, it doesn't encapsulate all the history. Like if you're doing a 100-year statue, I don't know how you properly do that with, and you already have a statue of Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr is probably your most famous alum. So you already have that. So I agree. I don't think there's a better option there. I'd be curious if people have it. Like, would you put up the 6 Stanley Cups? Nah, I mean, that's not really indigenous to you. I mean, it's the cup. Like, that could be anybody. So I like the bear. Even though I missed it, I think I'm looking forward to being there for the 200-year celebration. I'm excited. I already got my credentials sent in, my tickets, everything. I'm very excited for the 200-year. It's interesting, like when you look at sort of the whole, because it wasn't just Sunday. They've been doing Centennial stuff since going back to the beginning of last year. They had a ceremony before the first game, and they've had a lot of stuff throughout. They had the sweaters. They had those alternates they wore at home against the original 6 teams. And just, from top to bottom, whether it's the on-ice product or what they're putting on the ice for people to see, or just the off-ice 100 years stuff, they nailed it. And it felt perfect. And they do it right. They do ceremonies right over there. Presentations they do well. Videos. I mean, they obviously have an outstanding behind the scenes staff that puts on all of these things. You probably don't know their names, but these are superstars. And I look at it, and you look at how it could have been messed up. Right, like that's a big thing. 100 years, the history, getting the legends involved and getting them to participate in things, and they did it, and they hit all the right notes for the last year. And I'm not talking about how the team did on the ice or anything. I'm just saying to commemorate 100 years. Right now, I mean, this is apples and oranges, but UMass, my home college, my school, having a rough time with PR stuff.
Yeah, yes,
having a rough time with PR stuff. And that's just with small stuff. This is a big thing. 100 years is a huge, huge accomplishment. And they nailed it. So props to the Bruins, props to everybody behind the scenes, videographers, business ops people, everybody for doing a phenomenal job. I'll never forget at the end of the 22-23 season, I said to Eric Russo, I was like, oh, you must be excited for the summer coming up, right? He's like, nope. We got the 100 years next year, so that is my entire summer. So hopefully those guys can get a little bit of rest now. The other thing I'll mention, and it occurred to me watching the ceremonies on Sunday, obviously you and I rag on the Bruins quite a bit, especially right now. Things are not going so hot. Fans definitely do. They're not satisfied, and good for them. Good for them. You shouldn't be satisfied. I agree with you. I like it. But I think it is important to take a little bit of time to appreciate for us covering and for fans rooting for a team with that much history, for a team that is as rich in tradition, in just incredible moments over the years. I mean, you saw the eras of the Bruins, from going back to 1924 all the way through. It's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of legends. Eddie Shore, Lionel Hitchman, to Bobby Orr and Johnny Busick and Espo, and Ray Bourque and Cam Neely and Jason Allison and like all these guys, right? And to Patrice Bergeron and Chara in this current day. And like, there's something to be said for that. Like most fans around the league don't have that outside of the Chicago and Toronto and your original six teams. Certainly Utah's creating a tradition right now. Vegas is doing the same. Florida seems to be getting something going down there, but you've got something special. You are in an elite class in just a few teams are in. And I think that's, there's something to be said for that.
You think in like 100 years, like Justin Williams is going to do like the Storm Surge? They're all going to be like 100 years old, like doing like the thing in Carolina.
Gotta get him up. He's like move your hands. Just like,
yeah, exactly.
Like Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, there are going to be one of those things where some of these teams, the 100 years, will be a little different, I think. But
Vegas, this will be just insane.
I know. They're going to have Wayne Newton out there, like 240 years old at that point.
Bruce Cassidy's in his 200s,
Exactly. Listen, who knows what's going to happen in 100 years? Like, if these people could be just fine at 200 years old. Like, who are we to say, right? But
we could be there. We could be there. You never know.
That is true. So, but no, yeah, you look at just all the history the Bruins have had, and I think they did a great job. And there's only so much you can do in like one ceremony, but I think when you look at this ceremony, as kind of the final chapter to what was a year's worth of celebration. And you look back at last year, whether it's the early era, you had like the big bad Bruins getting able to raise a banner for the first time. They never had that opportunity when they were there before that, to like bringing back like the 2011 team had almost the entire team there, bringing back the cup in that game. It all like, for a team that has all this history, you can't do it all in one night, but you can, I think, hit on all the right notes and pay tribute to everything that's come before them. And as you said, like you look through all the great teams that have been here, the iconic players, the moments, even like the highlight reel that they showed for each era, where you go down the list of memorable moments, whether it's like the brawl at Madison Square Garden, you got the Orr goal, obviously, but them finally beating Montreal in 87 to present day. Like you had the 2011 team, but you had the Game 7 comeback against Toronto. You had all these great moments that are the reason why Bruins fans have been coming to Causeway Street for years upon years now, and it's great just to see them honor that. While also, I liked how it's also looking forward to what's next, and that is the big challenge facing this team moving forward. Is how do you build off of that tradition? It's something that the players mentioned after the game of like Charlie McAvoy saying that you've noticed all these years the Bruins have been anchored by elite defensemen. Look at every single team that has been worth remembering. They've always had at least one of those guys, and he said it outright. He's like, I don't want to be compared to Bobby Orr or Ray Borg. He's like, don't do that, please don't do that. But I want to be that go-to guy for my team, and he responded with a great game on Sunday night. So I think it's good for the fans to appreciate that. It's good for the players that were on the bench to watch that and soak that in, and that's something that has been reiterated time and time again, how important it is of keeping up that tradition and those links and relationships between the old players and the current players in a Bruins sweater. And so to see that continue on from what we saw from 10 years ago to where it is now with guys like Bergeron and Rask and Char and all those players now joining those ranks, it's very, very cool to see.
Yeah, it is. It is. And there was a game, Connor. There was a game, as you mentioned. There was a game played after all of this. Long day for fans at the Garden. But first, quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks, because as we all know, Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. And I'll say this, if you did some Prize Picks for that Bruins Canadiens game on Sunday, but maybe you were feeling David Pastrnak more than 0.5 goals or Charlie McAvoy time on ice, you were doing pretty well for yourself. So if you want to get in on the action some more, sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus because it's guaranteed. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use that code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Run your game. Speaking of games, Bruins win 6-3. Quite the performance. We've been kind of waiting a while for something like that. They obviously get a 6-3 win against the Islanders night before Thanksgiving, but of late you have that Vancouver game where they couldn't score. You have who do they play on Friday night? Oh, the Penguins. My God, these games are blending together. Penguins, they couldn't score.
I won't blame you, Evan. It was a pretty friggin' boring game, so it
was forgettable. But Saturday wasn't, or Sunday wasn't. The game. See, the days are. It's weird. Thanksgiving.
It's Thanksgiving week. Nothing makes sense right now. So I'm not gonna besmirch you for getting the dates wrong.
A shame. It's hard. It's hard right now. We're this world's so fucked up, man. So fucked up. Bruins 6-3 win though. They get a lot of scoring. Coyle gets 2. McAvoy gets 2. Koepke scores the empty netter. Does not try to go for McAvoy streaking down the middle for the hat trick, which I thought was pretty funny. I know it's Montreal, and the Bruins. I have beat them 9 straight times at the Garden,
something like that. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy stat.
Curb stomping them, but I still think that's an encouraging show of offense, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you look at 2 out of 3 games, he scored 6 goals, so progress, right? I mean,
the other one had 1.
Yeah,
that's this or that with Joe Sakic.
We'll focus on the positives right now, right? That I think they were really, early on, especially very assertive. We're playing with a lot of pace, intensity, and that's kind of what Joe Sakic said before the game. The Bruins are a team whose identity should be based on, playing with pace, playing with high effort. Seems like it should be a given, but it's something that I think needs to be reinforced, especially with this team where I think the high-skilled opportunities aren't really going to be there all that often. It's something that Charlie McAvoy mentioned after the game where, the one thing we can control is how hard we work. It's even if pucks don't go our way or we're not getting those tic-tac-toe, passing and scoring chances, like those are not going to be there that much for this team. You can always, skate hard and create plays that way. And I think you saw McAvoy take that to heart with, getting the wraparound goal, a lot of good skating there, gets the shorthanded breakaway. It was a weird game when that opportunity falls in your lap, but good on McAvoy for finishing it. But yeah, I think for them, it's all about the intensity they play with. They were physical against a team that likes to mix it up in Montreal these days. And I think you're looking at more just the individual players themselves that stepped up in that game. Like McAvoy, you needed kind of a takeover game from him, and he was great. You get 2 goals from Charlie Coyle, a guy you desperately need to get going further down the lineup, and I think that was a step in the right direction. And then you had even guys that I thought were pretty impactful that maybe weren't on the score sheet. Like I thought Elias Lindholm was really active, really killed a lot of plays all across the ice. So he's a guy that, coming off that game on Wednesday, 3 assists against the Islanders, was really good defensively in this one. Like these are guys that hope are trending in the right direction. Like I'm not ready to make any sweeping declarations as to where this team is at or what momentum you're building, because I think we can probably focus on the negatives a little bit further on here, but because you need to see this over an extended stretch. How many times have we been fooled into this before of this team feels like it's turning the corner, and then they turn the corner and then go head first into a brick wall. Like you don't want
that. That kid trying to catch the hibachi, and he's like, hunk, and he hits the table and misses the hibachi.
Exactly. So there's that. But in terms of, I think, on an individual level, I think you saw a lot of guys that need to get going who took steps in the right direction. It's all about building now, moving forward.
It is. I'm with you. I'll believe it when I see it if they can string together. And I'm not saying they got to score 6 goals on Tuesday. I'm just saying, 3-4 would be just fine.
How about just win?
Or just win in general. But I do think it is encouraging. Charlie McAvoy jumps into the offense. He gets 2. I mean, he's, slowed down, especially after a pretty good offensive start. Coyle's been slow the whole year. He gets 2. I do think, you can add in the Centennial celebration, how much that motivates them. Montreal also is not a good team.
That is a very
They're
bad
not.
Team. I like their defensive team. I like their defensive strategy of like stacking the blue line, and then they try to do like a poke check, and if it gets by, they're like, "Oh fuck!"
Oh well, nothing we could do.
It's like your 10-year-old cousin plays NHL. Like they just they do like man coverage. They try to do press coverage, and they get the games confused, and they try to do a poke check, and then after that, you're in the clear. Yeah.
Yes, this uber aggressive NHL 25 players. I also think Montreal is a great example of, everybody who says, oh, the Bruins need to blow it up. They need to start from the bottom. Go look at the Canadiens. They're about to be 4 straight years, for the first time in their franchise history, 4 straight years of missing the playoffs. They are not just missing the playoffs. They are bottom of the league, consistently top pick. And they're nowhere near. And what's funny is like Marty St. Louis, like a year ago, was like this phenomenal coach. When Jim Montgomery got fired, Montreal was one of the landing spots for Montgomery. People thought like, oh, they'll fire St. Louis. So again, that's instability at its finest up there, and a good example of why you don't just blow it up. They didn't have a ton. Like, just to go back a little bit, they didn't have a ton to build around. I don't remember them having a ton of high-end talent. Carey Price obviously sort of went down quickly. They made that Subban for Weber trade, and Weber was dealing with injuries for a while, if memory serves. Up front, in my lifetime, they've never really had anybody that was that potent up front. Like, Michael Camilleri was one that they had. They had Alexei Kovalev, who was good, but they weren't building around him for like this core. Pacioretty, that was one. He was never like superstar. He was really good. I mean, he was like captain. Yeah. Yes. But it's still bottoming out the way that they did. I don't know. I hate that. I don't like when teams decide to completely rebuild.
And that is again a team with a lot of history, a lot of pride that does not want to go through this. Like, props to them for, making the decision to go into the rebuild. But it again shows that there's a lot of teams that it's tough to kind of gauge it, right? Because there's teams that also just outright refuse to rebuild when it's obvious it's time to do something, and you probably have missed the window where, like, You don't have guys that, you can trade for more assets, or like look at Detroit, right? Like, but you can look at like a team like the Capitals that, again, I think are first in the East now, and like they made the smart decision a few years ago to be like, all right, this ain't it. Like for this year at least, let's move off guys like Orlov and Hathaway and be selective there. So, but as you said, you look at them, you look at Detroit, all these teams that
Buffalo,
that don't want to be at the bottom of the barrel. Look at Chicago, same thing.
Yep.
Like, there's no guarantee. Like, even when you hit, like, look at Chicago, a team that has money and they've signed impact or solid NHL players and hit the lottery ticket with a guy like Connor Bedard, and it's no guarantee. Hell, like friggin' Celebrini looks better than Bedard right now. So,
oh yeah,
and that's it. And again, like that, it shows you. I think there's no guarantee, and sometimes it ends up being a crapshoot because, like, I don't know. I think the Sharks look better than what Chicago's got right now, and the Sharks still have a lot of issues.
The thumbs up, yes.
When I shout out Celebrini, it pops up like that. So.
Yeah, the little bubble pops up.
But it is a crapshoot.
It's a complete crapshoot, and that's why I think it's a thing. If you can avoid it, if you have a good young core of players that you can build around, you can make the argument that the Bruins need to rebuild the core around Pastrnak, Swayman, and McAvoy and those guys, and like I'm for it. Like, sure, let's explore that. But when you get into the trade Pastrnak, trade McAvoy, what can you get for Swayman? That's when you lose me. And I think that's when it gets dumb.
An aggressive retool should always be the option for teams that have hit on franchise pillars, right? Like that should be the thing. It might mean a couple of lean years, a couple of years where maybe you missed the playoffs by a year or so, but look at how they reloaded during those kind of lean seasons where the cap and, those things kind of caught up to them. So that should always be the option.
Yes, and I also look at okay, let's go off those three pillars, right? Pastrnak was the 24th pick in the first round. McAvoy was what, 14 or 15?
14.
And Swayman was a fourth rounder.
Yeah.
Like that goes to show you don't have to have a top 10 pick. I like the idea of a top 10 pick. Everybody knows I'm pro drafting in the first round, all that, but you don't need to have the number one pick to get the best guy.
Right.
It's about identifying those guys later on. And a fourth round pick, that's not going to be all the time. You have to, of course, you're not going to get a Marchand in the sixth round all the time, but still, like, you get what I mean. You have to be able to identify guys later in the draft and later in the first round. Things that you do want to do. You maybe don't want to rebuild, but you do want to go to our friends over at Game Time, because there's nothing like watching an NBA or an NHL game live. The energy in the building, the sounds on the ice, the memories you make with family, friends, and other fans, it's unmatched. And the coolest part is when strangers sitting around you become your best friends, or maybe come to hate them. But passion's never a bad thing, right? And you can make these memories with Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. And it filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. When I use Game Time, I also love the flash deals, which help me get discounted prices on really good seats. Plus, who doesn't love seat views, which give a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy? So, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Connor, what time is it?
Game time.
Believe it's game time. Believe it is game time. Another thing I really liked in that Montreal game, I think it's early and they played a little bit together before, but I think this Osterley-McAvoy pairing might be something there. I'm not saying that they're going to take the world by storm. I think it's similar to what Grzelcyk and McAvoy were. Grzelcyk was a shifty, good puck-moving defenseman. Osterley is older. He's played in the NHL. He played for the Coyotes, I think, 3 straight years. Was in Chicago for a bit. I believe he was in Calgary as well, memory serves. Good, responsible puck mover. Aggressive stick at, the opposing blue line. I think it was, I forget which goal it was, but he made a great defensive stop that led directly to a goal. I forget if it was Coyle I'm blanking on who it was, but he did. Just source, trust me on that, bro. On Sunday, I think they might have something with this. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen in years past, right, where McAvoy's honestly been the best with guys that make simple, smart plays, move the puck quickly, and lighten some of the load there. And I think you saw that's why he was so good with a guy like Grzelcyk for years. There is that Grzelcyk did a lot of the dirty work or stuff that allowed McAvoy to be a bit more of a rover. And I think that's when McAvoy is the most impactful, is when he can kind of operate off the blue line. There's few guys in the NHL that can add offense like he can, while also lay the lumber and really take out another guy as well. So I think putting him with maybe a guy that has kind of that simplified approach can kind of unlock more of his game, as opposed to someone that, like a Zadorov, who's can kind of do a little bit of the same thing, or maybe puts himself out of position or stuff like that, or, lines a guy up for the hit, but then you've got McAvoy trying to recover. Like sometimes I think like a simple puck mover, the guy that makes simple, smart plays, is the best guy to put with McAvoy. And as you said, sample size has been pretty small, but it is intriguing that maybe that is the skill set you're looking for with a guy like McAvoy to get the most out of his game.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because Grzelcyk and McAvoy always worked so well together. Last year, not so much, but historically they did. And I think, a lot of people said, oh, it's because they have such great chemistry from their BU days and their friends and this and that. But I also think that play style might just work best with McAvoy. And, they tried Derek Forbert, who has a very different play style with Charlie McAvoy. They've tried Zadorov. They signed Zadorov in hopes that, his play style could mesh well with McAvoy's. Maybe it isn't the big, chance taker who can mess guys up and this and that. Maybe it is, having a shifty puck mover on the other side who is responsible. Like that might just be Osterley. Now, maybe, is it a Hampus Lindholm when he comes back? Is that who they put up there with him? Is Lowry the long-term fit there? I don't know. I think Lowry is a little bit more of a chance taker offensively, and can kind of, leave his partner out to dry at times, just trying to make plays. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I do wonder if Osterley they've maybe found something with him. Who knows? I mean, he hadn't been in the lineup prior, since Sacco took over. But I like his game. He keeps it simple, moves pucks well, aggressive in the neutral zone. Like I keep giving him a chance. Wotherspoon's great too. Like I think Wotherspoon is great. We've said this 1,000 times. Great seventh defenseman, a good fill-in, a good third pairing guy. The problem is like Zadorov's on your third pairing right now, and Lowry's teetering between your second and your first, and Wotherspoon kind of doesn't stand himself out among those two, and Osterley I think fits a need that Wotherspoon can't really fill. So like I think that sort of leaves him as the odd man out. I do wonder, if Osterley continued to play like this, what that would mean for when Lindholm comes back. But again, Lindholm, Sacco even said on the other day, not come back for weeks.
Still, exactly. So I don't know if you're even going to see him until probably the start of the new year, the way that's kind of looking in terms of his recovery. So again, it is going to give you an option if you're the Bruins to see where exactly a guy like Osterley or someone else can kind of fill in there and add a little bit of an element there. But it is brutal that right before, the Bruins kind of have this hard reset and Joe Sacco's in there, that I still think Hampus Lindholm was their best skater this whole year until he gets hurt. You are really kind of missing that when you're looking at this team. And again, with how small the margin for error has been for this team with their scoring issues, how much is having Lindholm out there, who has been really active in the offensive zone, really been a dynamic player. His injury did come at like the worst possible time, especially with the power play, which still doesn't look very good.
No, I was going to say the power play also just another one against Montreal, which again, it would have been a good chance to get that going. They run out the same grouping. I didn't see any real big differences, especially at the point. And even Lowry's looked shaky in his, with the puck at the point. So like I don't know, they have the yips. They just, something's up with that whole operation.
It's like Chuck Knobloch just throwing a first base and going like 20 stands behind him. So just got the yips.
That's what's happening. Anyway, Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, we'll have covered every step of the way this Bruins season, whether it's recaps, features, columns, breakdowns, all that good stuff. So you can read all of it over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.